All right. Away we go. All right, you ready to get started?
Ready to go.
All right. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 11 of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here once again with Steve. How's it going again, Steve?
Going great, Wayne. Good to be with you tonight. And looking forward to a big podcast with you.
We're doing it a couple days early this week, of course. Today is Tuesday, the 24th. And normally, of course, we do it on Thursday nights. But this week, we both had some stuff come up. And we're doing it a couple days early this week because neither one of us can do it either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. And Saturday, of course, we can't do it because we're hitting the road.
Yeah. We are hitting the road pretty early, headed down to watch the Charlotte Checkers, the AHL affiliate of the Carolina Hurricanes, play. That ought to be a lot of fun.
Yep. Should be a fun game. It's been a while since I've been to an American Hockey League game. So it'll be nice to get back down into the minors. It's a different kind of game. If any of you out there have been to an American Hockey League game, it tends to be a little bit more rough and tumble than the NHL is. So we'll be looking forward to that. And I'm going to be looking forward to seeing that building that they're playing in. It's a very old building, the Bojangles Coliseum.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to that because I've never been there.
Wayne, I have been there one time. I went there and I watched an Elton John concert back, maybe 20, 30 years, 40 years ago. Long time. I was back in high school or college, and I went and watched Elton John. So that's the only time I've ever been in that building. I've never been down there to watch a hockey game. So I'm looking forward to that.
So yeah, me too. So we'll be I'll definitely probably bring my camera with me because I like to, whenever I hit the road, bring my camera with me just in case. You never know. So we'll have some pictures and stuff that we'll be putting up on Twitter and the Facebook and all that stuff. So, and to remind you of all that, of course, our Facebook page is at facebook.com/thehhockeynuts. And our Twitter handles, mine is at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at SBall504man. So we will definitely be putting up. I don't know what the signal is going to be like inside that building, but we'll probably put up a couple of pictures anyway from that game to either the Facebook page or our Twitter accounts, if not both. So stay tuned this weekend for that. But that game's Saturday night. And then also you can reach us at email at the feedback@thehhockeynuts.com if you want to reach us via email. And, of course, as always, we do stream the recording of the podcast on YouTube. That's at thehhockeynuts.com/YouTube. And, of course, you can find the podcast anywhere that you can find podcasts, whatever app you're using, either on your phone or on your computer, to listen to podcasts, you can find us there. If you just simply do a search for the Hockey Nuts, you should be able to find us right then and there. You should find our logo. If it's the old logo, it's the old triangle, blue on blue triangle with the Hockey Nuts on it. If you're getting our newest logo, you'll see a picture of our two ugly mugs posing with the Stanley Cup. So. So, all right, but tonight we've got a lot to talk about, even though it has only been a few days since we last recorded. First and foremost, the injury bug is hitting the league hard this past weekend, so we got to get you caught up with all that. We've got a new playoff format being tried out in the minor leagues. We'll have the details on that. Of course, we'll get you up to date on our hockeynuts.com power rankings. And we've got all kinds of other news stories to get you caught up on. So let's go ahead and get started. But first, we have to start with our own personal teams and our thoughts on our team's performance over the past week. And I know you're ripping to get going on the Rangers because they're still sputtering along.
Yeah, they're not doing well, Wayne. Is it my cue to start?
Go for it.
There's been 2 games since the last podcast. We played one on Saturday, a matinee game, and I thought the return of the team I know played that day. They showed up. They were poised. They took control of the game from the outset. Henrik played great, and that team that showed up Saturday is the team that I know, and they played a great game. I thought, well, they finally got through this, and they really handed it to the Nashville Predators, who were really never in that game. We led from the outset and really never looked back. I think the major thing that I saw that was different in that game was they played defense in front of Henrik, and they showed up poised, not shell-shocked. It's as if the Rangers have been playing in a great big vacuum since the start of the season. That's how I look at it. And when they showed up to play on Saturday, they were ready for the game. They were prepared, poised, confident. They seemed like a different team, the team that I remember from the last several years. And that carried over throughout their play. And it really didn't matter what line took the ice. They were all playing very well. And then last night came, and we played San Jose, and we lost that game 4-1. And that was a game that we were really never in. San Jose scored a minute and 45 seconds, I think, into the game. And from that point forward, the Rangers returned back to the way they have been playing since the start of the season. Very lackluster, a lot of sloppy passes, and just didn't deserve to win the game, didn't show up. They just didn't show up. Henrik played poorly, I thought, in net last night. So, the team is struggling. And hopefully, they're costing themselves here, too, with these early season home games. Several games at home that they're dropping home wins left and right. We'll see what happens here. They got a couple days to try and look what they're going to do in practice, straighten things out, and Thursday night they play Arizona. So maybe they can pick up a couple of wins coming up here. Right? They got a few easier teams in the schedule. But that's all I don't notice anything else other than it just seems to be inconsistency to start the season. Had this been something where they had a good start to their year, like they did last year, we had a great start, one of the best starts we've ever had to the season for the Rangers last year. And this reached the middle of the season, and in a 10-game stretch, they went 3-5 or 3-6-1 or something like that. It really wouldn't be considered as long as they held their own in the playoff spot. But when you start out the season this way, yeah, it makes it very difficult to come back from. So.
Well, and of course they did play on the 19th as well. There was that third game. We actually recorded just before that game, and they had a shootout loss that night as well. So.
Oh, that was to the Islanders. I didn't. Yeah. You're right. I didn't. And they should have won that game.
Yep.
They should have won that game. They blew it on that game. But in my opinion, there's 3 or 4 games they should have won that they didn't. But it really doesn't matter. They're not winning. It doesn't matter, to the top brass what the reasons are for it. You have to win, and
yep.
That's really what it comes down to. So,
and you can really tell too how frustrated the players are, because after leaving the ice, you see all the camera shots of them leaving the ice after the San Jose game. You could just tell, just the look on the faces, the body language, that the Rangers seem to be in a spot where they just don't know what more to do, that they're so frustrated.
Yeah. Little things can really hurt you. Not, they're getting a lot of scoring chances, not just a few. They're getting a tremendous amount of good scoring chances in each game. They're generating a lot of good pressure when they're in the zone, in the offensive zone. They're making some great plays. Henrik has played some great games, and the team has played very, very hard and very, very well for several of those games. But little things happen that always has part of hockey, and an untimely goal, or a lot of these games they have not been the first team to score. Their opponents score, and sometimes score 2 goals, and then the Rangers are chasing the game.
Yep.
And, that's very hard. I mean, first team score, the opponent comes in, they score, and you're down 1-0. It's not really, it's not a major thing. If you can come back and tie the game up, but when you have to do that every single time you're on the ice, it's wearing. It's difficult to do. You're not gonna be too successful as a team if you're gonna do that every single time. So that's why I'm saying Saturday seemed like a departure from that. When they took the ice, they scored against Nashville early on, and they really never looked back. And that's been missing this year in their game. But it's neither here nor there. We'll see what happens here. We'll see how things go. I'm not sure what specifically they're going to look at.
Yeah, there's some scuttlebutt that Vigneault may be on the hot seat, but I think they'd be super. I don't know if they'd be smart to do that, but
I think if it continues.
If it continues, he's definitely
into November.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the Rangers have played a busier schedule in October than most other teams too, which doesn't help that situation. When you're playing a busy schedule and playing bad, that's
right.
That's tough because the losses can add up quick.
Right.
Whereas, like for example, the Hurricanes, who've only played 6 games so far this year, granted they're playing pretty well, but if they weren't, not having as many games does help, so you can try to work on things. Rangers haven't had a whole lot of time to work on things, so
right. Yeah.
All right. Well,
so I think as far as Vigneault goes, if he can work his way out of this, and we get to the middle of November, and the team is playing 500, hey, stranger things have happened. They may still get rid of him.
Yep.
But I would think that would be I think that would be a little harsh. But if he doesn't play his way out of it, and we get to he may not get to the middle of November.
Yep.
That they may make a decision before then. So
yeah. Well, he's on the clock. We'll put it that way.
Oh yeah.
Things are better.
Yeah, that's true.
They're in a situation where he's got to get things turned around or else. All right, well, speaking of the Canes, they've had a lighter week again this week. They've had a very light October schedule so far. Like I said before, they've only played 6 games, and this past week they had 2 games. They're still on the road because of the North Carolina State Fair taking up the whole area around that arena. The Canes went on their annual October road trip, and this time around they went to the Western Canada trip. They didn't go Western California. So on the 19th, they had a game at Calgary, which they won 2-1. And that was a couple nights after beating Edmonton in Edmonton. And from the announcers, I think Trip Tracy, who's the color guy for the Hurricanes, made a comment during that game that this was the first time that Carolina has won both games in Alberta. If ever, it's been a long time since they've won both games in Alberta. So that was encouraging news for them. And then their other game this week was a 4-3 loss at Dallas on the 21st. And that was a game they almost pulled out. They fell down 4-1 at one point. I was watching that game, and they almost – actually, no, I think the game was 4-0 at one point. And then they came all the way back and almost tied the game at the end. And Dallas had to pull out all the stops to hold on to that one. But the Hurricanes' comeback did fall short in that game, so they went out of Dallas without any points. And they are now coming back to Raleigh. And their first game is actually tonight. And, of course, they got to take on Tampa Bay in their first game back from their long road trip. So it doesn't get any easier for them.
Right.
And, that'll be a tough one. But all in all, in those 2 games, I think Carolina played well. The only problem with the Dallas game was they just didn't Coach Peters uses this term, start on time. He refers to his team. We got to start on time. We got to, start playing on time, which means coming out at the top of the first period, playing hard right from the start of the game. Well, they didn't do that, and they had to scratch and claw to get back into the game in that one. So they showed that they can come back. They just fell down a little bit too far to Dallas on that one. Dallas is not an easy team. They're playing very well this season. So I think against another team, they probably would have made it all the way back and tied the game. But Dallas is pretty strong this year.
Right.
So in terms of Bruins, they also had a light schedule this past week. They played in Vancouver. Actually, no, it was a home game against Vancouver on the 19th. That was the night we last recorded. They won that game 6-3. And then Saturday night, they played against Buffalo, and that game really ticked me off because I watched that game. They had a 4-1 lead at one point in that game, and Buffalo ended up coming back, tying the game, sending it to overtime, and then Buffalo totally owned overtime in that game and won the game 5-4. And I don't even recall the Bruins even having possession of the puck in the overtime period in that one. It was all Buffalo during the overtime period of that one. So, and of course, since then the Bruins haven't played, so they've had a few days to stew on that loss. And hopefully this was a learning lesson for the players at this point to tell them, look, even if you got a 4-1 lead, because I watched the game, they essentially stopped playing. Once they got that 4-1 lead, they let off the gas pedal, and they just stopped playing, doing the things that got them that 4-1 lead. And they basically let Buffalo chip away at the lead, and they ended up losing, not only giving Buffalo the point, or, they basically gave the game to Buffalo. It should have been Bruins getting out of there with 2 points, Buffalo none. Instead, Bruins only got 1 point. Thankfully, they did get at least the one, but Buffalo gets out of there with the 2 points. So hopefully it's games like this that can come back to bite you in April when you're fighting for a playoff spot.
Right.
So hopefully it's a learning lesson for the Bruins that they put teams away when they should and not let off the gas pedal. So, and the Bruins, of course, don't play again until Thursday. So they've got a long layoff between that Buffalo game and their next game. So they've had plenty of time to work on whatever caused them to fall behind in that game. So, all right. Well, let's move on to the NHL transactions for the week. And we had a trade this week. Pittsburgh Penguins acquired center Riley Sheahan in a trade with the Detroit Red Wings on Saturday. The Penguins, who also received a third-round pick in the 2018 NHL Draft, traded forward Scott Wilson and their fifth-round pick in 2018. Detroit and restricted free agent forward Andreas Athanasio agreed to a one-year contract on Friday. Financial terms were not disclosed, but TSN reported the contract was worth $1.387 million. And the Red Wings were about $20,000 under the cap, which is cutting it real close, according to CapFriendly.com, before trading Sheahan, who has this season remaining at $2.075 million before he can become a restricted free agent. And Wilson's cap charge is $625,000. So the two transactions here that I just mentioned, the trading of Sheahan and the signing of Athanasio, obviously are related. Part of the reason that Athanasio didn't get signed till just now was the fact that Detroit really didn't have a lot of space under the cap to fit him in.
Right.
And the reason that this contract is so short for him, just a one-year contract, also speaks to the fact that Detroit doesn't have a lot of cap space to fit him in.
Right.
So sounds like to me that Athanasio just took a lower deal in order to get himself on the roster. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to relook at things next summer and get him, probably. It was probably kind of a buddy deal made there. Say, look, we can't really afford you. Can you just take it here? We'll make it up to you after the season, kind of thing. So watch for Athanasio to sign a big contract next summer. Of course, if he has a big year.
Yeah.
But the question I have for Detroit is, why Pittsburgh? You just help Pittsburgh get better, like they need that help.
Well, that's true. They may not have had any choice.
Yeah. Well, they could have traded Sheehan to 30 other teams, and they had to choose Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Pittsburgh will definitely put him in, and he'll be doing better than you ever. Normally, that's how it goes, They grab a guy from another team, and he might not be doing real well with that team, and he comes into Pittsburgh, and all of a sudden, boy, he's the second coming, And I've seen it happen a lot.
Yep.
So Pittsburgh knows how to get the best out of a guy that maybe other teams don't. Maybe Riley.
Yeah. But Riley Sheehan is a bona fide NHL player. So, it just helps Pittsburgh get maybe not so much better, but certainly deeper.
Yeah.
So, I just felt Detroit could have picked a different team. Because Pittsburgh doesn't need help to get better. They're already good enough. All right, and we did have another trade this week that you mentioned to me before the show. The New York Rangers and the Red Wings also got into another trade, and I'm not sure if this had something to do with their cap issues or not, but it's kind of a minor deal. Ryan Sproul for Matt Pumple.
Right. And, we talked about it. Pumple played. I didn't know whether he played or not this year. Turns out he didn't.
No.
But he did play He did play probably a quarter of the season last year, and he scored a few goals. He was a fourth-line guy, but he did play on the Rangers starting roster.
Yeah, neither player has played in the NHL yet this year. But they both have some NHL experience.
Right. That's right.
So kind of a minor deal, but it was a deal nonetheless, so we felt it was worth mentioning. All right. And the only other transactions I saw for the week were just a rash of transactions that were as a result of some of the injuries that have taken place. Seems like almost every team had some sort of at least a minor injury to deal with that they've had to make some moves. So, all right, but speaking of injuries, let's go ahead and talk about some of the bigger ones that we've had over the past week. Starting with Zach Parise. Minnesota Wild forward Zach Parise had back surgery on Tuesday and is expected to miss 8 to 10 weeks. Parise, who's not played yet this season, was injured during training camp. He had a herniated disc last season and missed the Stanley Cup playoffs because of a back injury. Not last season, 2015-16, he got the herniated disc and missed the playoffs that year. The 33-year-old had a microdiscectomy, a procedure designed to provide relief from pain caused by a herniated disc, in which the herniated portion of the lumbar disc is removed, according to spinehealth.com. Parise had declined to confirm that the injury issues were related to his back, but acknowledged it was a problem that he wanted to have completely cleared up before playing in a game. Parise has missed 48 regular season games because of injury in the past 4 seasons. The Wild are also without forwards Charlie Coyle, who's got a fibula injury, and Nino Niederreiter with an ankle, who were injured against the Chicago Blackhawks on October 12th and placed on injured reserve the next day. Forward Michael Granlund will return on Tuesday against the Canucks at Xcel Energy Center after missing 5 games with a groin injury. So the injury bug has hit Minnesota pretty hard this year. And I had heard some speculation over the weekend about Parise that he was going to be missing some time. And at first, the Wild were basically saying, no, it's not his back, not his back. And then it turns out it's his back. So,
right. That's a tough loss for them. But he's had several injuries, Wayne. I mean, he's suffered through. He definitely is injury prone. I would say in the last 2-3 years, wouldn't you?
Well, a bad back for a hockey player can be very. I mean, it's something that's never going to go away.
Right. It can end your career.
Well, certainly, kind of drastically cut your production for sure, because you're constantly having to deal with it, and it never really truly goes away. So. I think Parise's best days are obviously behind him with this news, and obviously he's going to try to continue his career as best he can, but I think those high productive years that he had in the past are probably just about done at this point.
Yeah.
So, all right, next one. Anaheim Ducks forward Patrick Eaves was diagnosed with what is suspected to be Guillain-Barré syndrome, a disorder in which the body's immune system attacks the peripheral nervous system. Eaves is resting comfortably in stable condition at Hog Hospital in Newport Beach, California. He visited a specialist last week after feeling signs of weakness, which later led him to being diagnosed and admitted into the intensive care unit at the hospital. Eaves' condition stabilized over the weekend, and he was transferred out of the ICU. Ducks said Eaves, who has 1 goal in 2 games this season, hasn't played since October 13th and is expected to make a full recovery. Eaves, who's 33, signed a 3-year contract extension with the Ducks on June 23rd after setting NHL career highs in goals with 32 and points with 51 last season with Anaheim and the Dallas Stars. Our sole focus at this time is on Patrick's general health and well-being. Ducks GM Bob Murray said, "We're grateful his condition was diagnosed early by Dr. Robert Watkins Sr. and Dr. Danny Ben-Moshe, and thank the staff at Hog Hospital and our own medical personnel for their efforts. What defines Patrick Eaves is his strength of character and what will serve him well in his recovery. Our thoughts are with Patrick and his family at this time." So another kind of a rare injury, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Right. That's a weird one.
Yeah.
I watched the NHL Hockey Tonight. I believe it was last night's broadcast. They said they expect him to make a complete recovery from this. I don't know whether it's that they caught it in the early stages of it, or that it is not an acute case of this. I didn't really catch whether or not that's the thing, but they said that he would make a complete recovery from it.
It sounded like they caught it early. So, and it's something that he'll have to deal with going forward. But yeah, you got this one, and then you had the David Backes thing that just kind of cropped up out of nowhere, and it's, these are things that are keeping guys off the ice that aren't necessarily related to playing the game. They're not things that happen on the ice. So we've seen a couple of these so far this year already, and it's just kind of strange.
And in David Backes' case, and I don't want to. Diverticulitis is not something that I can remember ever hearing a hockey player come down with before.
Right, nor with this. This is the first time I ever heard of Guillain-Barré syndrome.
It could be I'm wrong on that, but I can tell you that it is not a common thing.
Yeah.
It rarely, if it's ever occurred before, it's extremely rare. Diverticulitis would be something that I happen to know someone who had diverticulitis, and it's not something that a person who's in shape, an athlete, comes down with, particularly a professional athlete.
Yeah.
So it is strange. I grant you that you hear this kind of stuff happening with players. I don't know what to say other than that.
Yeah.
But let's hope that Backes comes back, listen, I would expect him to make a full recovery as well.
Yep. Well, he is back. He played in the last couple games.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep, for the Bruins. So, all right, well, good. Let's move on to some injuries that have happened on the ice. Calgary Flames forward Jaromir Jagr was placed on injured reserve Monday because of lower body injury. Flames coach Glenn Gulletson said Jagr is expected to miss about a week. He was injured during the first period of a 4-2 loss against the Wild on Saturday. He has 2 assists in 5 games since signing a 1-year, $1 million contract with the Flames on October 4th, and has been playing on the top line with Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan at the time of the injury. Jagr's 4th all-time in NHL games played with 1,716 and needs to play 51 more games to tie Gordie Howe's record of 1,767. He's 3rd in the NHL history with 765 goals, behind Gretzky and Howe, and is 2nd in points with 1,916 behind only Wayne Gretzky. So maybe we should just come up with a Jaromir Jagr minute because we seem to be talking about him every week.
Yeah, he's coming out every week with something, right? Except this time it was injured reserve.
Yeah. And there was speculation there, too, whether he rushed himself onto the ice because he didn't get to play in training camp. He didn't get signed till the season started. So, but the team is saying, no, that is not the case. This is something that would have happened no matter what, whether he was in training camp or not. All right, Vegas Golden Knights goalie Malcolm Subban is expected to miss 4 weeks because of a lower body injury sustained in a 3-2 overtime win against the St. Louis Blues on Saturday. Subban, who made 37 saves before leaving the game with 9:10 left in the third period, appeared to be hurt, extending his right leg on his save attempt. He's 2-0-0 with a .206 goals against average and a .936 save percentage so far this season. Oscar Dansk made 10 of 11 saves in relief and got the win. He likely will start against the Blackhawks on Tuesday night. Vegas, which is without both its number 1 and number 2 goalies after starter Marc-Andre Fleury was placed on IR with a concussion back on October 15th, is expected to recall a goalie from the Chicago Wolves of the American Hockey League following their game on Sunday, which they in fact did, and I don't have who got recalled. The Golden Knights are 6-1 so far this season, the best start in team history.
And you're chuckling.
You missed that little part at the end there.
Oh, I must have. I was busy looking at the notes.
Oh, well, I said the Vegas Golden Knights are 6-1, best start in team history.
Oh, okay. Well, I just got it now. You have to forgive me, but no, that is the best start in team history, isn't it?
Well, it's actually the best start in.
The only start in team history.
Well, it's the best start for any team in their inaugural season, actually.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yep. So, yeah, Vegas is now on to their number 3 goalie. Now, before we all think, okay, they're bringing in some sieve that's going to give up 6 goals a game, I did look, and Oscar Dansk is a former second-round draft pick. So, they're probably going to get a pretty decent performance out of him.
And he's not going to have to play very long because they say Marc-Andre Fleury's.
He's getting close. Yeah, he's getting close to
come back.
Yeah. So Dansk will probably make 1 or 2 starts, and then they'll bring Fleury back in. So
right.
But yeah, I mean, Golden Knights are already facing a little bit of adversity here. We'll see if they can continue to play. Now they're playing some tough teams up ahead. They've got I think Pittsburgh on their schedule this week, maybe.
They play in New York as well. And
the Rangers, yep. So they've got some tough teams coming up ahead on their schedules. So. Yeah, we'll see. The amazing start of the Vegas Golden Knights continue, and they are playing tonight. I'm not sure exactly who they're playing, but they are playing tonight as well, later on.
Right.
All right. Forward Andrei Burakovsky was placed on injury reserve by the Washington Capitals on Tuesday because of an upper body injury. Burakovsky has 4 points in 9 games so far this season. He had 35 points in 64 games last season, and has 99 points in 205 games since entering the NHL in 2014. Burakovsky was Washington's first-round pick in the 2013 NHL draft. I didn't see anything where how long they're expecting him to be out and what kind of injury this was. So this story is pretty short, but they're going to be without him for a little bit anyway.
Right. Sputtering, I don't know that I'd say they're sputtering, but they're definitely not hitting on all cylinders, with the exception of Alexander Ovechkin.
Yeah, they're either 3-3 or 4-4. They're right at 500 right now.
Yeah.
So, which is, like you said, not sputtering, but not hot, not cold, just kind of eh.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they'll turn things around. They're still too good to not be a very good team.
Right.
All right, Philadelphia Flyers defenseman Andrew McDonald will miss 4 to 6 weeks because of a lower body injury. McDonald appeared to be injured blocking a shot in the third period of a 2-1 win against the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday. He finished the game, had 6 blocked shots, and played 22:03, second on the Flyers. McDonald, an alternate captain, has 1 goal in 8 games this season and is third in the team on ice per game at 1935. So, strong player for Philadelphia. Going down is not good for them. That's a team that needs to steer clear of the injury bug if they want to do anything of any value this season, because no one's expecting them to make the playoffs even if they stayed healthy.
Right. And then again, Philadelphia, I've seen them sneak in from time to time. I don't know whether they'll finish in the top 3, but I could see them making the playoffs if confidence builds and they get on a roll. And
yep.
they're it's not like they're. I'm trying to pick a team out of a hat here, but it's not like they're. Say the Arizona Coyotes or somebody who. You really don't expect to make the playoffs.
Right.
The Vancouver Canucks. Philadelphia can get in if they get things going. They have the personnel. They have the players on the team that they can make a run, and definitely I wouldn't be surprised for them to make the playoffs.
Yep. All right, another goaltender, New Jersey Devil goaltender, Corey Schneider was placed on injury reserve Friday because of a lower body injury. Schneider was injured in the Devils' 5-4 overtime win against the Ottawa Senators on Thursday and was replaced by Keith Kincaid to start the third. Schneider is 4-1 with a 3.3 goals against average and .907 save percentage in 6 games. New Jersey recalled goaltender Scott Wedgwood from Binghamton of the American Hockey League under emergency conditions to back up Kincaid. No word on how long he's going to be out.
Yeah.
But Keith Kincaid will be.
He played real well against us. They're not going to miss much of a beat there.
No, he's played well when he's had to for them.
Yeah.
And that's a team that's surprised so far this year.
Yes, they are.
So they're doing very, very well. All right, Boston Bruins defenseman Adam McQuaid broke his right fibula against the Vancouver Canucks on Thursday and is expected to miss 8 weeks. McQuaid, who's 31, was injured blocking a shot by Canucks defenseman Ben Hutton in the third period of the Bruins' 6-3 victory at TD Garden. He's scheduled to have surgery on Monday. McQuaid has 1 assist in 6 games this season. Second-round pick of the Columbus Blue Jackets in the 2005 NHL Draft. He has 63 points in 430 league games in 9 seasons, all with the Bruins. McQuaid is their quintessential stay-at-home, tough guy defenseman. He's not going to put up a lot of points. It's not his game. But the Bruins are going to badly miss him because usually when the game's on the line, they're trying to hold a lead. He's one of the 4 guys anyway that's going to be playing the bulk of the minutes down the stretch in a tight 1-goal lead situation.
Right.
So the fact that he got his leg broken on a shot is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But I saw the play, and I think the reason that it basically broke his legs is it didn't hit him straight on where the pad, would have taken the brunt of the shot. He kind of was turning kind of sideways as the shot was being taken, and it hit him in the side of the leg. And sometimes there's a little bit less padding there, so you don't have that plastic, because most knee pads have the plastic shell that covers the front of the leg. Well, on the sides and the back, you don't have that plastic shell, and it's a little bit more vulnerable there. And he kind of was turned sideways when he got hit there, and it essentially broke his leg. So,
wow. And your lower leg, you got those 2 bones. I'm sure that was very painful. God. Yeah. More painful than it had been had he taken it dead on,
Yeah.
And broke his leg. I think it just seems to me like that'd be much more painful.
Yeah. And 8 weeks indicates that it's not a clean break. It's just, probably cracked a bone in there.
Right.
And it's just enough that he's got to, obviously can't skate on it. And he probably just needs to stay off it until it heals itself. And like they said, it'll take about 8 weeks.
Right.
All right. And the last injury I have is one on Bobby Ryan. He'll be out at least a month with a fractured index finger in his right hand. He's had 6 bone fractures in his hands during the past 4 seasons. The repeated injuries caused him to test new gloves in March, ones that offered more protection while still providing the flexibility he needs to grip his stick. But ultimately didn't help him in this case because he's out with yet another hand injury. So tough break for him, that's for sure.
I've watched Bobby Ryan play, and I don't know whether he's one of these guys that reaches up and grabs the puck a lot, or like you said, uses his hands. Uses his hands, needs good padding on his gloves or whatever, more than normal. But 6 fractures in 4 years, that was said?
Yep.
That's a lot of,
And from the story I read, and of course, Bobby Ryan, of course, plays for the Senators, if you don't already know.
Right.
But I read a story about this particular case, and Bobby Ryan himself says that all of these injury issues that he's had with his hands have all just been pure dumb luck accident type situations. It's not something that he's done stupid. It's just, stuff happens. So, and I'm sure a couple of those fractures were ones where he got slashed or whatever. I don't know the exact circumstances of each and every injury, but it's the kind of stuff that they're trying to crack down on with the slashing to try to avoid. And I think in this case though, he got hit with a shot or something.
Right.
I don't think it was a slash that got him. So, but yeah, he's going to be out for a while, and the Senators need his offensive talent. They're a good team. They're playing very well, and we'll see if they can continue doing so without him. But it's a big loss for Ottawa for sure.
Right.
All right. Did you have any suspensions that I missed? Because
no,
there's quite a few of them. Of course, there's a lot of little bumps and bruises out there too. There are other players that got hurt, but
you said injuries. Yeah, I have no. Yeah. No injuries to report on other than what you've got. And then it's going back, it's not going back a lot of days, Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. We just recorded on Thursday. That was 5 days ago.
Right.
But yeah, there's some other players that were listed on capfriendly.com's transaction report as being IR. Louis Eriksson, of course, that was from last week. Carter Rowney, Troy Stetcher with the Canucks. Rowney plays for the Penguins. Let's see. We mentioned Andrew McDonald. We mentioned Yager. Alice Hemsky with Montreal. Right. He got placed on IR. JT Compher with Colorado. Tyson Yost with Colorado. Cam Fowler. I think we talked about his last week. Zach Smith with the Senators. So there's Luongo with the Panthers. So there's been a number of guys, Josh George's Buffalo, that have been put on IR, but these are all probably day-to-day injuries, and they haven't risen to the level of where we got to talk about them because probably they're not going to miss much time. All right. So as far as our next grouping of stories is generally suspensions/fines, and I didn't have any this week unless you came up with any.
None to report.
Okay.
No, sir.
So that puts us on to honors. And I got a story from the NHL Alumni Awards Gala. And the story reads as follows. Craig Cunningham fought to find the right words and hold back tears. In a year where he has overcome so many obstacles, these were 2 fights he actually was losing. There he was, standing in front of Hockey Hall of Fame center Mario Lemieux during an NHL Alumni Awards Gala at Scotiabank Center in Toronto on Monday. The 2 men were being honored as part of the festivities, with Lemieux the recipient of the Keith Magnuson Man of the Year Award and Cunningham the winner of the Ace Bailey Award of Courage. Lemieux is the 16th former player to win his particular award, named for the former Blackhawks defenseman and NHLAA executive board director who died in a car accident in 2003. And on November 19, 2016, Cunningham, a forward with the Tucson of American Hockey League, collapsed from sudden cardiac arrest. After being resuscitated back to life by medical officials on the scene, Cunningham was rushed to the hospital where he was in a coma for 9 days. And then in the days that followed, Cunningham learned about how he had almost lost his life. About a month after that, he would lose part of his left leg after doctors told him he developed an infection that could impact his weakened heart if amputation was not done. These days, Cunningham is back in the world of pro hockey, serving as a scout for the Arizona Coyotes. All the while, he's teaming up with renowned cardiothoracic surgeon Dr. Zane Kalapi, the man who helped save his life almost a year ago, to develop a screening process to help better prevent SCA. And then, of course, the article went on to mention several other players that actually had the same thing happen, and a couple of them passed as a result. A former Ranger prospect, and I can't remember, I didn't write down his name. Former Ranger prospect who was playing in the KHL. Do you remember him?
No, doesn't come to mind right now, Wayne.
Alexei Sharapanov, sorry.
Right.
Rangers first-round pick Alexei Sharapanov collapsed and died during a Continental Hockey League game back on October 13th, 2008 of the same. He was just one of the players that was mentioned. And then, of course, Cunningham ended up getting the loudest roar of the night when he accepted the Ace Bailey Award of Courage, named for former NHL forward Garnet Ace Bailey, who was a passenger on United Airlines Flight 175 when it crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center back on September 11th, 2001. Like Cunningham, Lemieux has also endured his own personal off-ice battles over the years, including bouts with Hodgkin lymphoma and spinal disc herniation. Yeah, Lemieux's back problems were legendary. He had those all his career.
Yep.
So, and of course, I included a link in the show notes to the article, and it was a nice evening for both of those guys to get honored by the NHL's Alumni Association.
Right.
All right, and the other honors we had this week, of course, is the weekly NHL Players of the Week honors, and 2 Tampa Bay Lightnings were honored this week. Tampa Bay Lightning center Steven Stamkos, Tampa Bay Lightning right winger Nikita Kucherov, and San Jose Sharks center Logan Couture were named the NHL's 3 stars for the week ending October 22nd. Stamkos posted 4 multi-point games, compiling a league-leading 9 assists and 11 points to power the Lightning to a 3-0-1 week and first place in the overall NHL standings. Kucherov shared the league lead with 5 goals and ranked second with 8 points in 4 outings to help the Lightning equal their best 9-game start to a season in franchise history, which is, as of the article, was 7-1-1. Couture ranked 3rd in the NHL with a 5-2-7 week in 3 games to lead the Sharks to a pair of wins. So congrats to those 3 guys.
Yes, congrats to them.
So, and yeah, just a note on Stamkos and Kucherov. I think what they're doing should just be illegal for as far as I'm concerned. Those guys they're putting them on the same line together, which just isn't fair to the other teams. It really isn't. How good those 2 guys are playing.
They are playing very well.
And of course they're playing the Canes tonight, so we'll get to see them. Well, not live in person because neither one of us are at the game tonight, but at least they're playing here locally tonight anyway.
Right.
All right. Well, let's go on to our minor league hockey minute.
Yes, sir.
Actually, before we do that, let's get the power ranking out of the way.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
I don't know why I have the minor league minute in that spot in the show notes, but let's go ahead and talk about the power ranking, and then we'll go on to the minor league hockey minute.
Okay.
Now, of course, it's my turn this week.
It is.
So I will go ahead and start at, like we've been doing in past weeks. Yeah.
I meant to ask you one quick question.
Yeah.
Was I too early in last week's podcast by not going down the line and picking all 31 teams? You know, I started last week with the 16 teams based play if the playoffs started today type format, and maybe I shouldn't have done that.
No, that's fine.
That was good.
We didn't even last year. We didn't even talk every week. We didn't go 31 through 1. I think we did. You know, some weeks we did top 10. Sometimes we did top 15.
No, that's correct.
I like the 16 through 1, even though we could end up naming 9 or 10 from one conference and 6 from the other. But yeah, let's stick with the top 16 format.
Right.
So this week at number 16, I've got the Islanders, who are up from 22. They've been playing well of late. 15, I've got Vancouver, who's actually been playing very well as well. They're up from 21 last week. 14, I've got Nashville, who's pretty much where they were last week. They were at 15 last week. 13, right. I've got Carolina, just because they've been playing well in the 2 games they played. They were 17 last week. 12, I've got Dallas, who's playing very well. They're up from 19, and I think they're going to continue climbing. Number 11, I've got Columbus. They've actually dropped from number 4 last week. Right. Number 10, I've got Philly. They're right where they were last week. 9, I've got Pittsburgh, which is exactly where they were last week. 8, I've got Ottawa, who's moved up from number 12. At number 7, I've got New Jersey, who's moved down from number 6. And that's not based on their play. It's just the teams above them are I had to put them ahead of them just because those teams are playing extremely well. Number 6, I've got Chicago, who's climbing up the charts, and I expect them there to continue to climb. They were number 8 last week. Number 5, I've got St. Louis, who are up from number 7. Number 4, I've got Vegas, who's up from number 5. They continue to play very well. Too well to drop them in the standings at this point.
Right.
And at number 3, I've got L.A., who finally got their first regulation loss of the season.
Yeah.
And number 2, I've got Toronto, just because what they're doing offensively is still amazing to me. And then at number 1, I've got Tampa Bay, who's up from number 3. And that's just simply because Tampa Bay is just playing lights out. They were undefeated last week, and I think they only have 1 regulation loss in 9 games.
Yeah, they're playing very, very well.
And just a couple of notables. I've got Boston at 23, and I've got the Rangers at 28.
Right.
So
we'll see if that changes this week.
Yep. Yeah, you had Rangers 29 last week, or no, I had them at 29. So,
yeah.
So they have moved up. That's a good sign. Just one spot, right?
If we can, hey, listen, it's the type of thing where if they get going and pull off a couple of 2 or 3 wins in their next 2 or 3 games, it will fall out of people's memory. If they return and start playing, they may struggle to make the playoffs, but it's the type of thing that'll fall right out of people's memory and out of people's minds with 2 or 3 solid performances and wins.
Yep.
I can think of their last 4 games. They should have won 3 of them. A break here or there the other way. The games are close. It's not like the Rangers are being destroyed in every game.
Exactly.
Showing up on the ice and getting crushed. They're playing well. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and of course, if your team hasn't been mentioned, go ahead and look at our show notes. You can see where they're located in the rest of the standings. Well, if they haven't been mentioned, then we've got them lower than 16. We'll put it that way. All right, well, let's look ahead to the schedule real quick before we move on to our minor league minute. We keep sliding that minor league minute down the docket. Boston this week has San Jose on the 26th. That's Thursday night. They've got L.A. on the 28th and Columbus on the 30th. First 2 games are at home. The Columbus game is on the road. 3 tough games for Boston if they're going to climb the power rankings. They've got to get a couple of wins there. Carolina has Tampa Bay tonight. In fact, the puck just dropped on that game as we speak. And they've got Toronto on the 26th. They've got St. Louis on the 27th and Anaheim on the 29th. So Carolina's playing 4 games in 6 days starting tonight.
We'll see now how Carolina is.
And Tampa, Toronto, St. Louis, Anaheim. I don't know if you can come up with a tougher schedule than that for them. So
that's right.
And having 4 games in 6 nights doesn't make it any easier to play against those strong teams. It's going to It's going to be, good tough test,
Yeah.
a good litmus test to see where Carolina is going to be after these 4 games. We'll have a better idea of how good this team's going to be.
Right.
And the Rangers, do you have the schedule right in front of you?
They play on the 26th. They play at home against Arizona, which is Thursday night. They play on Saturday at 7 o'clock. We'll be in Charlotte at that time, but they'll be playing the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal. And then they come back and play in the Garden. I believe it's Monday night, the 30th, or it could be on the 31st. I'm sorry, Tuesday the 31st, the last day of the month. They play for the very first time the Vegas Golden Knights.
And that's at home. Yeah,
that's a Madison Square Garden game. That's correct.
So the first 2 games, obviously Arizona's off to their worst start in team history, or if it's not the worst, it's one of their worst. Montreal, same. Montreal is a team that is expected to be better than that, and they just haven't played that way. So the Rangers really need to take advantage of Montreal sputtering. And
right.
I think of the 2 teams, both teams are probably 2 of the biggest surprises at the bottom of the standings so far this year. Although I think the Rangers have been playing better hockey than Montreal. But the Rangers really need to take advantage of that game. And then Vegas, well, we're all expecting Vegas to come back down to earth at some point. And,
right. They keep this up.
Can you imagine if they make the playoffs?
Especially if they're the 3rd or 4th ranked team in the NHL. I mean,
that would be something.
Yeah.
So you would expect that the Rangers should at least be able to compete very well against those 3 teams.
Right.
All right, now let's move on to the Minor League Hockey Minute.
That sounds good, Wayne.
And you've got one that reminds us of the song Streets of Bakersfield.
That's right. I picked this song up. I was coming home. My wife and I, a couple weeks ago, we went to a town close by here for a festival in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and we're driving home, and all of a sudden that particular song comes on Prime Country on satellite radio, if you listen to it. And anyways, it didn't think nothing of it. Got home. I actually really like the song. I like any kind of Mexican. I've even went on Mexican radio and listened to music sometimes. But anyways, that country music song has a heavy Spanish-Mexican influence to it. Regardless, I'm sitting here going through my notes, trying to come up with a minor league hockey minute, and all of a sudden I see the Bakersfield Condors. Goalie Nick Ellis earned the weekly honor as being the top player in the AHL for the week. And of course, I immediately thought of the song Streets of Bakersfield by Dwight Yoakam and the late Buck Owens. And so, I'm sure that's something that Nick Ellis has done, walked the streets of Bakersfield. And the way the Rangers are playing right now, by golly, I wish I was walking the streets of Bakersfield. Anyways, my minor league minute is the Condors. Nick Ellis earns the weekly honor. The American Hockey League announced today that Bakersfield Condors goaltender Nick Ellis has been selected as the CCM AHL Player of the Week for the period ending 10/22/17. Ellis made 2 starts last week and stopped 67 of 68 shots to lead the Condors to back-to-back road victories against one of their Pacific Division rivals, and it's the Ontario Reign, actually. With the Condors heading to Ontario for a 2-game set, Ellis helped spoil the Reign's home opener on Friday with a 32-save performance, backstopping Bakersfield to a 2-0 shutout victory. Then on Saturday, Ellis turned aside 35 of 36 Ontario shots, allowing an extra attacker goal with 1:55 remaining in regulation as the Condors finished the weekend sweep with a 3-1 win. Now, he is a second-year pro out of Providence College, and he did play for Providence when they won the national championship in 2015, but I don't believe he was the starting goalie. But he is a second-year pro out of Providence College, and is off to a 2-1-0 start in 3 appearances so far in 2017 and 18, posting a 1.35 goals against average and a .956 save percentage. It's really good. The 23-year-old native of Millersville, Maryland, played 34 games for the Condors as a rookie last season, going 16-12-2 with a 2.69 goals against and a .918 save percentage with 1 shutout. Ellis signed as a free agent with the Edmonton Oilers on April 7th, 2016. In recognition of his achievements, Ellis will be presented with an etched crystal award prior to an upcoming Condors home game.
Cool.
There we go.
Cool. Congratulations to him.
Pittsfield Condors.
All right. Well, my minor league hockey minute is actually from the Southern Pro Hockey League, and I don't believe we've talked about this league that much in podcasts past.
That's right.
But they came out with something this week that kind of really caught my attention, and actually it's caught attention of a lot of people around the hockey world because I've heard talk of it from other podcasts and even some mainstream news organizations. But it's about their playoff format. And the article reads as follows. It's an article on NBC Sports by Sean Leahy. He said, when discussion about NHL's playoff format comes up, there's a section of fans who would like to see a league allow for an even greater reward for top teams other than home ice advantage. That idea has become a reality thanks to the Southern Professional Hockey League. The 10-team SPHL announced on Monday that they are overhauling their opening round and turning it into what is being dubbed the Challenge Round. The top 3 teams will get to choose their first-round opponent during a Challenge Round selection event, which will be broadcast to fans on Sunday, April 8th, the day after the regular season concludes. After the top 3 seeds select their opponents, the number 4 team will be matched against the leftover side. Every playoff series, including the President's Cup Final, will remain best of 3 with reseeding taking place after the first round. The idea for this change came to the SPHL Commissioner Jim Coombs over dinner in June with Axel Bammer, Chief Operating Officer of the Erste Bank Ice Hockey Liga. When Coombs heard that the league's top teams got to pick their opening round opponent, he could imagine the buzz it would create. And this is the Erste Bank Ice Hockey Liga is Sweden's. No, it's not. I don't know which league that is. I think that might be Germany. But Sweden's top league has also done this in the past as well. A week after meeting with Bammer, Coombs met with league's owners and received zero pushback about the idea. The new playoff format was widely embraced as the group felt it was the future of hockey. That's pretty bold. It's a pretty bold statement. The feedback has been mixed on the change, but Mike Campos, who covers the SPHL for the Sin Bin, sees it as being a big plus for the league. One of the benefits of being at the bottom rung of professional hockey ladder is there is flexibility to implement radically new ideas other leagues cannot. If the pick your opponent format change generates buzz among fans and rivalries between teams and resulting in a spirited postseason, the decision could be a winner for the SPHL. That was a quote. As Campos notes, lower levels of hockey allow for plenty of innovation while not straying far from the fundamentals of running a hockey league. This new format will certainly make the end of the regular season much more interesting and provide bulletin board material for the teams and storylines heading into the playoffs. It's an idea worth exploring, and the SPHL is no stranger to implementing ideas that catch on elsewhere. It was the SPHL where 3-on-3 overtime hockey began over a decade ago. It was deemed a silly gimmick at first, but now that we've seen it at the NHL level for 2 seasons now, it's clearly a welcome change, one that's made overtime hockey must-see TV, and I would agree with that sentiment.
I agree.
Coombs said the league will see how this playoff format idea plays out in April before deciding whether or not to keep it in the future. So we want to know what you, the listener of our podcast, thinks about this. Would you like to see the NHL adopt this in the future? there's no indication that they will, and quite frankly, I don't think that will happen. But you never know. I mean, like they said, 3-on-3 overtime hockey was thought as a silly idea at one point. Now you're seeing it at the NHL. So I want to know what our listeners think. What do you think? Do you think the NHL should adopt this? Now, I looked at, they had a poll on this, at the end of this article where you get to click yes or no whether or not the NHL should adopt it. And I went ahead and voted, and it came out. The current is yes, 64.4%. No is 35.6%.
Isn't that something?
A total of 764 votes. So these are, of course, at readers of NBC Sports website. Probably not diehard or traditionalist hockey fans voting on this. These are probably casual fans at best are the ones voting, but some fans say yeah.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says the top 3 teams. I'm assuming there's 2 conferences. It's a 10-team league, right?
I think there's 2. There may be 2 divisions, or just maybe all one division, where top 8 makes the playoffs.
The top 8 make the playoffs.
Yep.
Okay, and it's a 10-team league. Am I right in that?
It's a 10-team league. Yep.
Okay, so they finish the season, and 8 teams numerically make the playoffs.
Right.
So teams 1, 2, and 3 in their own division pick who they want to play.
I think they just get seeded 1 through 8 through the whole league.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So teams 1, 2, and 3 get to choose their opponent. Of course, team 1 gets to choose first. Team 2 gets to choose second. Team 3 third.
I see. Okay.
And then the 4th place team gets whatever team doesn't get chosen.
Okay. I'm with you now. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know. Stranger things have happened. That's interesting.
Yep. It'll certainly be worth watching at the end of the season to see what comes of it. Now, if we think of it in terms of NHL, the obvious thing that I think of is the bulletin board materials set up.
Right.
You're going to have a team choosing their opponent, and then that opponent is going to put that up on their bulletin board, say, hey, look, our opponent thinks that we're an easy win, so we're going to use this as motivation. Right.
And that's, that's a good point. The 3-on-3 hockey is a better idea. But, hey, the Southern Pro Hockey League, Wayne, is headquartered here in North Carolina. It's actually headquartered in Huntersville.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's here in this state. And I think there's one team. What's the Fayetteville Marksmen? I can't remember their names, but there's a team in Fayetteville.
Yeah, I know there's a Fayetteville Fire Ants here.
Yeah, the Fire Ants. I think. Yeah, or
they've been around forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know the league was actually.
It's in Huntersville, is a suburb of Charlotte, so they're headquartered here in Charlotte, and that's really interesting. But I don't know how that works. You have, I guess they're below the caliber of a player in the ECHL.
Yeah, it's a step below ECHL, which ECHL is a step below the AHL.
Right.
So yeah, the
single A.
It would be kind of like single A if you were to use a baseball reference to it. But, yeah, the teams in the SPHL, you've got a team in Birmingham, Alabama, Evansville, Indiana, Fayetteville. Actually, they changed their name to the Marksmen. Used to be the Fire Ants.
Yep.
Alabama Huntsville, which also has a Division I college hockey program. They like their hockey in Huntsville, Alabama, don't they?
They like their hockey down there, yeah.
Knoxville, Tennessee, Macon, Georgia, South Haven, Mississippi, Pensacola, Florida, Peoria, Illinois, which isn't exactly in the South, but okay, and Roanoke, Virginia.
Okay, yeah.
So those are where the teams are located in that league. Maybe it'd be worth taking a trip to Fayetteville. I don't know how far they are from
Yeah, it's not. You know what? It's not as far as you'd think. And man, Wayne, I got to tell you real quick. I know this is not normal. There is a barbecue place
Ticket prices
down.
start at $5 in Fayetteville, by the way.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Man, that's a man. We should go down there. I'll go to Fayetteville in a heartbeat, but that's a military town.
Yeah.
But there's a barbecue place down there not far, man. I'm telling you, it's out of the way, but I'm telling you, there is a barbecue place down there not far from Fayetteville. Oh God, you'll never forget it. Goldsboro, North Carolina. It's the best barbecue I've ever had in my life. If you like pork barbecue, Grady's Barbecue in Goldsboro. God, what a place! I'm telling you,
Sounds like a road trip to me.
it's a road trip. It's a road trip in the making. You'd love it, Wayne. You'll love them, man. They're great place to go.
Seems like a decent sized arena they play in too. 9,500 seats at the
Yeah.
at the Crown Coliseum in
And
Fayetteville.
you know what? I have never ever been to Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've never been there.
Neither have I. And it's only about 90 minutes from my house here, so
Yeah.
might be worth taking the drive down.
Oh yeah. Without a doubt.
Let's hit all the Southern Hockey. We also got to make it to Winston-Salem game in the Federal Hockey League too.
That's right.
If you want to watch fights, I guarantee you're going to have fights in that league.
Oh yeah.
Federal.
That league starts up on the 3rd of November, if I'm not mistaken. I got it written down on my calendar.
Yeah, that one is even lower than the Southern Pro Hockey League.
Yeah.
That would be like rookie ball for comparison to baseball.
Pony League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the one. That was the league we talked about a couple weeks ago, where the local Winston-Salem team was holding open tryouts to have players on their team.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we want to hear from you guys. What do you think of that playoff format, and should the NHL adopt it? So, get us at Wayne Helly 9, SBall 504 man, or at Facebook at thehockeynuts.com, and let us know your thoughts on that one. All right, let's move on to the College Hockey Minute. And just a local note on Maine, they split with Miami last weekend, and that's Miami of Ohio, not the Miami Hurricanes. They split Miami a 5-7 loss and a 6-3 win on Saturday night. And this weekend, it doesn't get any easier for them. They've got number 10, Minnesota Duluth, in town in Orono this weekend to play Maine. So
Wow.
good test for Maine to see if they can stand up to one of the country's best teams right there. Now, as far as upsets over the past week, there actually were quite a few this past week. Unranked Bemidji State beat number 20 Air Force 4-1. Now, I'm beginning to wonder how long Bemidji State is going to be unranked, because we seem to be mentioning them in upsets as upset winners for the past couple of weeks now. Number 19 UMass Lowell beat number 12 Clarkson. That's kind of a mild upset there. Unranked Northern Michigan beat number 6 Wisconsin 5-4 on Friday night. Number 16 Northeastern lost to Quinnipiac at home, and Quinnipiac, of course, is the number 18 team. That was a 6-4 game, so that was a mild upset as well there. And unranked American International, in probably the upset of the week, beat number 11 Penn State 3-2 on Friday night. And American International, they're almost every year are at almost the very bottom of Division I college hockey in terms of talent. So to have them beat a ranked team at all is huge for them.
What conference do they play in?
I believe they were independent for a long time. I believe they may still be.
Okay.
Let me look. Either that or they're in the Atlantic. Yeah, they're in the Atlantic Hockey Conference. So
Okay.
they were independent for a long time.
Right.
But then when they formed that Atlantic Hockey Conference, which is basically everybody in the East outside of Hockey East and ECHL, they play in the Atlantic Hockey Conference. It's basically the misfits, I guess, of college hockey. The teams that haven't been able to latch on to one of the major conferences, they play in that conference. So it's considered a tier below the other conferences.
Right.
So yeah, that's a big upset there. American International beating Penn State. And finally on Friday night, number 8 Minnesota beat number 4 North Dakota in what we called our games of the week last week. That one didn't disappoint. Minnesota won that game on Friday night, and then of course North Dakota came back and won on Saturday night. I believe that was a 4-0 shutout win there. On Saturday night, number 14 Minnesota State lost to unranked Bowling Green 5-2. Number 4 Alabama Huntsville, again a team that is not well known as a good team, perennially a bad team, really.
That's Cam Talbot's team.
They beat beat number 4. I mean, they beat number 15 Michigan Tech 4-2.
Wow.
And that was at Michigan Tech. Number 10 Providence lost to number 12 Clarkson in a mild upset 4-0. Number 18 Quinnipiac beat number 16 Northeastern 3-2 in overtime. So they swept Northeastern at Northeastern. So those two should flip-flop in the next rankings. And unranked Colorado College beat number 17 New Hampshire 2-1 in overtime.
Right.
Now, as far as games coming up this week that are probably worth mentioning, number 19 Boston College is at number 11 Providence for 2 games this weekend. Number 20 Northeastern is at number 17 UMass Lowell Friday night. Number 16 Michigan Tech is at number 12 Minnesota State for 2 games this weekend. And in our series of the week, or one of our games of the week, probably the single game of the week, in my mind, number 1 Denver plays at number 6 Boston University, 2 of the most powerful teams in college hockey. And then the final game on Friday night worth mentioning, number 9 Clarkson is at number 7 Minnesota for 2 games this weekend, Friday and Saturday night. So that should be a good series as well. And then on Saturday night, a couple other games worth noting. Number 17 Mass Lowell is at number 20 Northeastern. So that's a home and home for those two. They're playing each other twice, but they flip-flop Friday and Saturday night locations. Granted, they're probably only a 30-minute drive apart. And then finally, Denver stays in Boston for a second game, but they play BC on the second night. And BC's number 19 ranked. So,
right.
But the Denver BU game on Friday is probably the game to watch if it's going to be on TV and if you can find it. And finally, in college hockey, the poll for the week, we have number 10 Minnesota Duluth, who are 2-2-2. They have the number 10 spot this week, up from number 9. Or down from number 9, I should say. Number 9 is Clarkson. They're off to a 4-1-1 start. They were unranked last week, or they were at number 12. Number 8 is Notre Dame. They're down from number 5. Number 7 is Minnesota. They're up from number 8. Number 6, BU. They're up from number 7. Number 5 is Wisconsin. They're up from number 6. Number 4 is North Dakota this week. They're right where they were last week. Number 3 remains Harvard. Now, they were number 2 last week, but they still have yet to play a game. They actually play their first games this weekend. And number 2 is St. Cloud State. They got 16 first-place votes. They're off to a 5-0-0 record, so they leapfrogged Harvard into that number 2 spot. And Harvard also got a first-place vote as well. And then number 1 this week, again, is Denver. They are 2-0-2, so they still retain the number 1 spot, but it's not 100% unanimous yet. They have 33 first-place votes, and they were getting, I think, 49 last week. So there are 3 teams this week with first-place votes. So, yeah, it's starting to see teams jump around quite a bit in the rankings.
Right.
All right.
That Clarkson up there in Potsdam, New York. I'm telling you, they're almost in Canada.
Yep, they are.
That's way up north.
Guy I play hockey with actually went to Clarkson University.
Did he really?
It's kind of funny. Guy
Yeah,
play
the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights.
Yeah, yeah, the Clarkson Golden Knights. The guy I play hockey with now went to Clarkson University. I didn't know him before I started playing hockey down here. He played in the same league as us. Got to know him. We're on the same team now. Guy I played high school hockey with also went to Clarkson University, and he still lives up in the New England area.
Oh yeah.
Funny story is these two guys actually know each other from college.
Oh wow.
So a few weeks ago over the summer, my high school buddy was in the area on business, and me and the guy that I play hockey with now went and met with him, and the three of us got together and had a few beers one night. So it's kind of a weird small world situation where a guy I'm playing hockey with now knows a guy I played hockey with in high school, even though we didn't know each other until we started playing hockey, together on the same team down here. So kind of a strange small world story there.
Right.
All right. And and Clarkson University is at the heart of that story there. So anyway, all right, we're at Picks of the Week.
Yes, we are. It's unbelievable how quickly we have flown through this interesting week in the NHL.
And I've got a bit of a discussion that I want to talk about as my pick of the week. So I'll let you get your story out of the way, and then we'll talk about mine.
That sounds good, Wayne. That's very good. That's fine with me. As you know, if you watched Hockey Night in Canada this weekend at all, Gord Downie of the Tragically Hip passed away actually a week ago today from a brain tumor. And if you follow hockey up in Canada at all, you know that to that country, Wayne, see if you agree with me on this, their musical artists have a much higher status in the hockey world than, let's say, you might really be accustomed to seeing here in this country. I'm talking about people like Bryan Adams and the list. The Canadian performance is a large one, but they're high. They're very, very entwined in the fabric of the hockey world up in Canada, and the Tragically Hip were certainly one of those bands. Their songs. Many of them are written with hockey in mind.
Yep.
And Gord Downie, their lead singer, of course, is a huge hockey fan. But he did pass away, and he was very much remembered in a very good way this weekend by Ron McLean and a lot of those guys up there on the CBC. But the article goes, Downie, Tragically Hip, honored by NHL alumni. When the Boston Bruins won the Stanley Cup in 1972, Gord Downie, then 8 years old, and his older brother Mike, 12, went out onto the driveway of their Kingston, Ontario home to celebrate playing hockey in the rain. Many years later, Downie, an avid Bruins fan, would recall how eerily quiet it was on that night. Ironically, it seems an entire nation has been that way since the passing of Downie, the lead singer of the Tragically Hip, who died from a brain tumor on October 17th. He was 53. All of Canada is in mourning, Hall of Fame defenseman Paul Coffey said on Monday during the NHL Alumni Awards Gala, which you mentioned earlier, Wayne, in Toronto.
Yep.
It's like everyone is still in shock. The NHL Alumni Association paid tribute to Downie and the Tragically Hip on Monday with the inaugural Honorary Alumni Award, which for one day gives an individual or group membership in the NHLAA without having played an entire game. There is only ever one choice for this first-time award, NHLAA Executive Director Glenn Healy said, and it's the Hip. There was no second choice. Because of Downie's recent passing, none of the band's members attended the ceremony on Monday, but there was plenty of tributes for the tragically hip nonetheless. Hockey references are plentiful in the songs of the tragically hip. 50 Mission Cap refers to the late defenseman Bill Barilko, who scored the Stanley Cup winning goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Montreal Canadiens in 1951. He went missing on a fishing trip later that summer, and his body was not discovered until 11 years later. Another example is the song Fireworks, which references Paul Henderson's winning goal in Game 8 of the 1972 Summit Series between Canada and the Soviet Union. Healy told stories of Downey's passion, and I didn't know that Glenn Healy was close friends, I guess, with Gord Downey, but he was.
Okay.
Healy told stories of Downey's passion for the game, including the trips the band's leader would make to Toronto for regular pickup games Healy would take part in. And I don't know how far the drive is from Kingston to Toronto, but it's not 15 minutes. Kingston is on around Lake Ontario quite a bit, and so you'd be on the road for a little bit there to get down to Toronto. He would come all that way, hoping that only one goalie would show up and he'd get to play, Healy said. And if there was two, I would give him part of the net. We lost a great Canadian this week, but remember this, the band was and is a team. But the team was so good together. Went to high school together, started playing in front of nobody, ended up playing in front of everybody. For us, there was no other choice for this award. None. So my hat's off to the NHL again, honoring another music band. And I tell you, they when they speak of their it's almost like they're heroes, you know, Wayne, yep. To that community. And so yeah,
most Canadian-born hockey players certainly know of the Tragically Hip. They were huge in Canada, particularly in the hockey community, and not so much in the U.S. Like, I had heard of them. I can't say I was a fan of theirs, just because they're just flat out not as big down here,
right,
as they are in Canada. But the entire country, Canada, has definitely been in mourning over Gord Downey's passing, and they kind of knew it was coming all along. They even did a farewell tour, I guess is a lack of better term, over the last year or so. After he got the cancer diagnosis, they did one last tour, and I can only imagine what it was like to attend one of those concerts, knowing that it was, for most people in the audience, was the last time they'd ever see the Hip play in concert. So,
right,
but yeah, just another loss from a terrible disease. So,
right. But we're inspired by their music, Wayne, and the fact that, I think that's a great thing that Canadians do, is how they honor the guys in the entertainment business as far as music goes. It's a big part of hockey.
Yep.
In that country, and there's a lot of things to remember about them. So that's a good thing. But there's a lot of those guys, Bare Naked Ladies. I remember seeing them on Hockey Night. There's all kinds of bands like that, that they are bigger in Canada than they. Bryan Adams in his day was just an enormous fan of hockey and an enormous, almost a hero-like status in Canada. So, anyways, Thunder Bay,
Ontario.
Yeah,
that's where that's where the Stahl brothers are from.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, mine is kind of a discussion this week. As teams are beginning to face tough roster decisions regarding the future of key young players. A player on an entry-level contract, by rule, can skate in 9 games before the teams must decide whether to send him back to their either American Hockey League or junior hockey program, or Europe if they're European, and delay the start of their contract to the following season. So this is your contract slide rule is now coming into effect. Teams can still send a player down after his 10th game, but it would use up the first season of his contract, regardless of how many more NHL games he plays. For some, the decisions will be easy. The Devils have reached the top of the Metropolitan Division standings in part because of the play of two rookie forwards, Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt. Hischier was the number 1 pick overall in this past summer's draft, has 7 points in 8 games, and centers the Devils' top line between Taylor Hall and Drew Stafford. Bratt, who's 19, is tied for the Devils' lead with 3 goals. Other teams won't have such easy decisions. And then the article says there's a look at a few of the players and their likelihood of remaining in the NHL past their 9th game. So as we approach this 9-game threshold, we've got to decide as a team whether we're going to send the kid back and retain his full contract status, or do we send him or do we keep him and burn that year? So once they play game 10, they burn that year, that first year. But they can push a contract back. So the initial, most of them sign a 3-year entry-level deal. They can push that contract back a year if they send them back to their junior program. So with that in mind, let's talk about some of those players and decide whether or not we think the team's going to keep them or they're going to send them back. First one I have is Alex DeBrincat, Blackhawks. So far, he has 4 points in 9 games, mostly on a line with center Artem Anisimov and Patrick Sharp, and is averaging 14:36 of ice time. His 10th game is scheduled to be at the Vegas Golden Knights on Tuesday night. So, without us knowing who's played tonight so far, Steve, what do you think? You think he's staying?
Alex DeBrincat, they're going to keep him.
You think they're going to keep him? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
And you know, if he didn't score any points, then that'd be a different story. But he's last year's Ontario Hockey League scoring champ. So
he has been impressive. He's skillful. He's fast. Man, is he fast?
He's very fast.
Not the biggest player in the world, but man, he makes up for it in speed.
I watched the Chicago game last week, and he's going to make. There's no question he's going to make the team.
Yep.
They're not going to send him down.
Okay, I agree with you on that one. How about Columbus Blue Jackets center Pierre-Luc Dubois? So far this season, he has a goal in 8 games and is averaging 12:31 of ice time per game. Blue Jackets selected Dubois on the 3rd pick of the 2016 NHL draft with the hope he could develop into a franchise center, but he's been playing mostly left wing in a bottom 6 role. His 10th game would be against the Winnipeg Jets on Friday. I think they're going to send him back.
I agree.
I don't think he's done enough to stay.
I watched the Rangers play Columbus. He was not a prominent part of the Columbus's attack.
If they want him to develop into a franchise center, or at the very least a top 6 forward, they need to send him to a place where he can be that and continue. And if he's been playing bottom 6, that's not the place. That's not the best place for him to develop. So yeah, I agree. I think he's going back to juniors.
Oh.
All right, next guy, Clayton Keller, Arizona Coyotes. He has 8 points in 8 games. He leads all rookies in goals and is tied for second in points, but 1 fewer than Will Butcher. He leads the Coyotes in goals and points and is second among Coyotes forwards with an average ice time of 19:46 per game. He's scheduled to play his 10th game at the Rangers on October 26th.
Yeah, and he's going to stay.
He's going to stay.
We'll be watching Clayton Keller Thursday night. Yeah,
because he's been their best player as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he's
granted it's not a very granted it's not a very good team, but he's been the best player on a bad team.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. All right, next one, Nolan Patrick, center, Philadelphia Flyers. He has 3 points in 8 games. He's played mostly on a third line with Travis Konechny and Dale Weiss. While he hasn't been a big offensive impact, the Flyers have been happy, according to general manager Ron Hextall. He's the number 2 pick in the 2017 NHL draft, is set to play his 10th game at the Senators on Thursday.
I think they're going to keep him.
I would tend to agree with that, but not a totally 100% on that one.
The reason for me is because Philadelphia is playing well.
Yep. And he's
They're
been a
playing
part
well.
of that. Yeah.
And he's been a part of that.
Yeah.
It's not, if he had 0 points, it'd be a different story. But he's a part of that. He factors in, and this is a team that is not Chicago Blackhawks or Pittsburgh Penguins, where they have a young guy come up and he has to make a big contribution, or they will send someone like that down. He's on a team, Philadelphia, that doesn't make the playoffs and hasn't made the playoffs regularly. So I think that I tend to lean towards the side that they'll keep Nolan Patrick.
Yep. Yeah, it took him a while to get his first goal, but since he's done it, he's been producing more regularly. So, yeah, I'm leaning towards him staying. I don't think he's going to be sent down, but I think of the guys we've talked about so far, he's probably the closest to be not 100%, but yeah, I think ultimately he ends up staying. Okay, next player, Mikhail Sergachev, the guy that they got from Montreal in the trade they made with them for Jonathan Drouin. Defenseman, Tampa Bay Lightning. So far, Sergachev has 8 points in 9 games. Keep in mind he's a defenseman. He leads rookie defenseman in goals and is second in points, 1 fewer than Butcher, despite averaging 12:36 of ice time. Sergachev is scheduled to play his 10th game at the Carolina Hurricanes on Tuesday. I think he's staying.
Absolutely.
And I could probably easily find out if I just watched this game for a little bit whether or not he played. But if he played tonight, he's definitely staying. But
I agree.
Tampa's one of those teams. Yeah, with all the offensive power they've got, they are a little light on defense in terms of depth. So he's playing in that third pair role, and he can still develop at that role. All right, and the last player I've got is Kyler Yamamoto, right winger, Edmonton Oilers. He has 3 assists in 6 games. He's been playing right wing on the Connor McDavid line, and has been his ice time's been going up steadily. After playing less than 12 minutes in his first 2 games, he's played at least 17:53 in the past 4. And more than 20 minutes twice. He's scheduled to play his 10th game against the Pittsburgh Penguins on November 1st. So he's probably got more. Well, he's definitely got more time left than the rest because he didn't start in Edmonton when the season started. But with them struggling, they brought him up. And question is, will he stay?
Ooh. Is that a bubble one, Wayne? What do you think about that?
To me, that's a bubble one. If Edmonton continues to lose like they have and fall too far behind in the playoffs, they may send him back just to preserve that contract, especially with Edmonton already being right close against the cap, not so much for this year, but in the years going out with the Draisaitl and the McDavid contracts taking effect next year with really big numbers, they may want to push his contract out.
Right.
That ultimately, if talent and based on his play, he should stay because he has been a nice addition for them. But the financial side of things, I'm not sure where they stand on that. That may cost him.
Right.
So that one could go either way. But I think if Edmonton wants to win this year, I think they need him.
Ooh, there you go. That's a good one.
Yeah.
He's an exciting player to watch.
He is.
He's kind of like Alex DeBrincat. He's when he's on the ice, he can quickly make a contribution. You see him in the game, in the play of the game, and that's since we don't have generational players, a lot of times that's what the guys are trying to do. Do they make a contribution on the ice? And he's one of those guys that I think does. I think he's staying.
I think they need him. Yeah.
I think they need him. I think that when you jockey lines around, and who knows, they may put him on a line with somebody and he gels. But I think he's good enough to stay. So.
Yep. Well, good.
That was a great pick of the week.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, Wayne, I really like that one.
And also, I want to know what our listeners think. Who, if there are any players that we missed, first of all, and second of all, of the players we mentioned, are there any that you disagree with? Let us know.
Very good.
All right. Well, that is pretty much all I have for this week.
That's it. And if anybody's in Bakersfield and they want to call into the show and let us know whether that was a good show, a good song to, intro into the discussion of the Bakersfield Condors or not, let me know.
Yeah,
I have thick skin if it wasn't.
All right. And as a reminder, of course, you can find our podcast anywhere you can get podcasts. Just do the search for thehockeynuts.com. You'll find that. And, of course, you can reach us by email us at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. You can Twitter or tweet us at WayneHalley9 is my handle, and Steve's is SBall504man. You can reach us through our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeynuts and our YouTube channel at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. And, of course, we do live stream the recording of the podcast on YouTube. And the other one I haven't mentioned, too, is you can watch our podcast and listen to it both on our website at thehockeynuts.com and on the hockeywriters.com website on their podcast channel. So it's another good place to catch our show. As far as next week, of course, we are recording tonight on Tuesday, and our regular schedule recording is Thursday, so we're going to probably be 9, maybe 10 days before we do our next podcast, but we'll have plenty to catch up on there. We've got, we don't know what's going to happen between now and then, but if it happens, we'll be talking about it. I guess is the best way to put it.
That's right. We will be talking about it on this show, that's for sure.
Yep. And, of course, if you want to stay tuned to the fantasy hockey segment, that will take place right after the music stops playing on this, the end of this podcast. So stay tuned to that. And with that, let's go ahead and wrap things up.
Okay, Wayne, you have a good week. It's great to work with you once again.
Yep.
And I look forward to talking to you next week now.
Yep, and we'll certainly be seeing each other before then. We've got the hockey game to go to, and, of course, we'll be talking about that on next week's podcast. So until then, have a good week. All right.
This is going to be a good podcast.
Yep.
Even though we didn't have a lot of time between the last one, there's a lot of stuff on there that I think is pretty interesting.
Yep.
So
yep, for sure.
That was a really good pick of the week, Wayne. God, that was good. I like that one. That was an excellent one. I hope we get feedback. Did anybody give us feedback on the Vegas Golden Knight?
No, we didn't get feedback. I mean, we got a bunch of people just listening, but not participating, which is fine.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And I find that's the case in a lot of podcasts out there.
Oh, yeah. People just listen.
Yep. So we're just giving them the news of the week, I guess.
Our podcast is good, though. I really, Wayne, I think it's a great one.
Yep.
I don't think it's just good.
Yep.
I got no training in this. But we're doing good.
Yep.
So
we're getting good download numbers for sure. So.
Yeah.
All right.
I gotta, man, the last 2 days for me, oh, God, I'm telling you. I worked with Mike Murphy yesterday, and boy, you better have your track shoes on. You work with him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, oh, God. And then I went for my DOT physical. Oh, was that ever something?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I go for my DOT physical. Which, for me, I have to do it every year because I have high blood pressure. I take medication. And normally a DOT physical lasts for 2 years. But because of my condition, I have to take it every year. So you know, it's no big deal and nothing has changed. And I go in there and I sit down and they, you know, they go through and I'm going through all this and they take my blood pressure.